Let's start with a brief silent meditation. Om. 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 Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Satsang. Dham is joining us. Good to see you, Dham. Great to see your face. So what we've been doing is in this satsangs is kind of an extension of what was happening in Virginia before I left. And people just come with either questions or reflections, inquiries that we explore together. And we'll see how this morning unfolds. So who has something that would get us started? Ranjani Ma.
Good to see you, Sri Nataraj. I have a question. I've been contemplating the idea of the blind monks and the elephant because you've spoken of that last couple of satsangs. And here, this is my point. This is what I'm wondering. If the one who says, "Oh, the elephant is a rope," and that's all he knows, the elephant is a rope. And the thing that's incorrect about that is not to allow space for the others who aren't touching the rope. But for him, the elephant is the rope. That's his perspective. So if I see something, what I'm seeing may not be incorrect. It's just what I'm seeing. And the incorrect part would be not to allow space for what others see. That's a question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ranjani Ma. So you're in this sweet little parable, comical even, contains the entire spiritual teaching. Everything looks the way it does to us based on where we're looking from. And so in this way, this reveals perspective. The angle of reflection equals the angle of inflection. So what you're looking at, what you're perceiving, is revealing only where you're perceiving from. And so in this way, everybody in the world is always right, in a very limited way. And so, yes, it's true, this monk calls elephant tail, not knowing the full scope of elephant. It's also said that world, God, guru is like a multifaceted gem. And that each one's eye perceives a facet, or maybe two or three. But largely, the gem itself and certainly the other facets are obscured to the one limited to perspective. So our own limitation, which is called avidya or blindness, is the very limitation that is, let's say, assigned to that which we perceive. And this one, we know it because it says, I'm right. And one who doesn't know the limitation of subject, object, perspective, perception, reflection, would also say, you're wrong. And this is ignorance. Out of this, in the recognition of this, we can have great compassion for everybody running around saying quite loudly oftentimes, I'm right, and very busy making others wrong. Even though it's foolishness, it's like the foolishness of a child. They don't know any better. And so you just hold a compassion because each one, this will be revealed in time. Also, for your own self, to have a great compassion for your own sense of blindness, past and present. I like this way of calling it blindness because there's a certain innocence in this, isn't it? In my own early reflections on this, contemplation on this, seeing that this is how it is, the image of a blind man walking down a busy city sidewalk bumps into me. And busy on my way to some important meeting, I turn to offer a glare and maybe a harsh word, but then I see the cane, the stick. And I think, oh, it's not his fault. He's just doing the best he can to make his way down a busy city sidewalk. And maybe even all, I will offer my assistance. Is this maybe what Jesus means when he says, Lord, forgive them, they know not what they do? And if I can see this in others, can I afford the same compassion and latitude the same gentleness to my own self, realizing that all the bumping around that I've done in this world, bumping into people, people bumping into me, tripping on sidewalks, all of these collisions, all of this suffering is only because of my own blindness. But who's to blame? I was born with it. And a world full of blind people reinforced it for me. They're also not to blame. They also were born with it and also were taught by other blind people, reinforcing a sense of knowing that isn't knowing at all, a deep misunderstanding. So hopefully what this does for us is this gives us an opportunity to really settle into a deep compassion for ourselves and a deep compassion for others. And simultaneously know it, as a matter of fact, that only a fool says I'm right. Certainly at the expense of somebody else being wrong. And isn't it interesting that in our own inner dialogue, so often, for so many, there is a constant barrage of self-criticism. Always saying, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. You yourself whispering in your own ear. And that voice takes a certain satisfaction of the one that's right about making yourself wrong. It's insidious. We've said so many times, this one pretends to be your friend. It is not your friend. And yet this is how it is, isn't it? These are the patterns of mind and emotion. We are triggered, we react. The story, the collection of memories from past triggers and wounds are there at the ready to reinforce our sense of I'm right and the world is wrong. Or equally insidious, I'm wrong and the world is right. And so we could say that this is the world. So many voices promoting and defending the sense I'm right. So many thoughts, so many voices promoting the narrative, the conditioning, the egoic tendency of I'm right. How loud some of these voices are, certainly in the world, but also in our own minds. And so anything we can say about it, positive or negative, is coming from the one who says, from the limitation, the sense of individual separateness, from the sense of past and the feeling of suffering. Anything that is said comes from that. Also, anything anyone has ever said about you also is coming from that. Can you see it? How, if this is true, what would it mean for you about what other people say about you? If they're speaking from their past, how much of you is in what they say about you? And when you really come to see this and abide in it increasingly, you will be so much less affected by anything called praise or blame. We've all heard it said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So too, my friend, is ugly. Now, what other people say about you, know that it's coming from their past. It's a projection based on a recursive reflection in the own mind and heart that then makes you what you are to them. This is true. Also, if it lands at your feet, it is for you. This is the perfection of this world that brings the right challenge at the right time for you to see your sense of self-imposed limitation and to begin to free yourself of it. So while they are speaking from their past nostalgias and resentments and projecting that on you, it couldn't come to you by the law of the universe or karma if you didn't have some part in it. Now we have such a limited view of time. We're always making the mistake that it's something that I did recently or yesterday. It could be 100 lifetimes ago that's finally come to find you. It's true, any accusation that's ever been laid at my doorstep has been true. I am guilty of anything ever said about me. Many of them I don't have memory recall because it didn't happen in this lifetime. But it doesn't mean that I cannot now forgive that aspect of myself, forgive even my accuser, who from their perspective is wrong. But from the universal perspective, it's for me. This is why forgiveness of self and forgiveness of other is the only practical solution. In a way, we could say that forgiveness isn't really even spiritual. It's very pragmatic. And so every time we are offended, we're being presented with an opportunity to forgive, meaning an opportunity to be happier. More joyful, more blissful. Is this why Swami Shivananda says, bear insult, bear injury, highest sadhana? You see, because even if you lay a false claim against me and I retaliate, not good for me. It will come back for me in time. Anything not forgiven will come find me. Everything that comes to us is an invitation to freedom. Can't you see it also in your own life, in your own experience, that every difficulty was a pearl covered in mud? Don't you already know all of this to be true? So, I asked this some weeks ago, how long is your list of unforgivable? Make this list. Know what it is. Because this very list will show you how much longer you have to suffer. Be careful of the one who wants to make you feel guilty for this list. This conditioned reaction of self-criticism, even shame, is the very problem, is the very seed of judgment and suffering. So it's so wise if it's the one thing that you focus on, to wrap all of your own thinking in the loving space of your own heart, to wrap all of your interactions in the world, good, bad, and neutral, in the loving refuge of the cosmic heart. This way, this infinitely recursive self-judgment is brought to an end. It's said by the yogis that these days, this what you call my life, are like waves on an ocean. So complex in their formation and how they're interacting with each other. And in our ignorance, we are busy trying to organize the waves. Not this one, this one. Making so many waves, trying to stop the waves. You see? So the only antidote to the drama, the waves, the ocean of samsara, is to be still. And then the waves will slowly, very slowly, dissipate. It happens even in the vast ocean, in this reality. Somehow, incredible swells, tumult on the surface, and then the next day, a sailor is completely becalmed on a totally still ocean with no wind whatever. So it happens. So in stillness, when we stop splashing, pushing this away, chasing that, making waves, In time, it will. This is called chitta vritti nirodha. The yogis also say, by the intervention of a cosmic grace and mercy, they say God, God can throw a blanket over the whole ocean. And that blanket just has the ability to just settle everything a bit more quickly for you. You know, the image that comes to mind is Peter in his boat. I forget who else was there. And they're just being thrashed about by an angry sea. And Jesus appears walking on water. So many people get lost in the debate of whether or not this is possible and miracles without really understanding what it means. Is it possible to, despite the chaos of the surface of the ocean, to be above it all? To be unaffected by it? Haven't there always been ones in this world called Buddhas or yogis or sadhus who seem to walk unaffected by this? And aren't they all saying that you also can do this? This parable of the 5 blind monks and the elephant, if you really lean into it in your contemplation, it will reveal the whole thing to you. Who you think you are, what you think the world is, what you think the world is in relationship to who you think you are. And then all of the things that you're not, that you thought you were, but that you're not, that you thought the world was, but it isn't. And slowly revealing what is true. That is completely uncontaminated by past. That you no longer make it anything at all. You simply allow it to be as it is. It being the world and it being the you that you think you are. You simply abide in a total acceptance. I don't mind. This is joy. This is the living difference between heaven and hell. So, what do you say now?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Is it helpful?
Yes, certainly helpful. that leaning into it and seeing.
Is there
and letting it.
is there something that seems to ring true in it?
Absolutely. The judgment for not seeing the whole picture, the judgment of myself. That what's that was useful. That's very useful.
Should a blind man curse himself for his blindness? And yet we do it all the time, don't we?
But if you're the one with the stick that bumps into other people.
And we use that stick in so many different ways. What about this? Do you hear this as good news or bad news?
Good news.
Why? Why is it good news? It's a bit of a disturbing realization, isn't it? It's a bit of a disturbing realization. So why is it good news?
It is a realization. It's a removing of boundaries. It's removing the limitations of this is all I see, but that's not all there is. And then to know there's forgiveness in that.
Would it be right to say that forgiveness is a way of removing limitations?
Yes. Forgiveness keeps me bound. I feel that. I know that experientially. It's true.
It feels somehow constricted, ensnared, bound. Isn't it?
And the thing I think is forgiven and gone. I'm well good and done with it. And then here it comes again. Why? In the same way, but another wave of that. Oh, I'm done with this. And then there I see it again. Where did this come from?
A surfer would know this better. Don't waves in the actual ocean come in sets of 7 or 9 or something like this? Or maybe they're infinite, the little ripples that follow it. But when you drop a single drop in the water and it creates that pattern, how many ripples? A single incident. A single action, karma. And then each ripple expands out. There's a beauty in it, isn't there? And then it'll bounce off some shore and come back, and then so why would it be different? And yet, for us, in terms of our experience of the world and how it comes toward us and what it brings, we could even say that our life as it unfolds is simply waves generated by past drops, past action, karma, bouncing in some sort of a lattice, some sort of interactive lattice of the ripples coming back at us. And a single drop creates so much. So why should it be any different? And yet we have this sense of backslipping. I had it, I lost it. I thought I was past that, but clearly I'm not. And the first reaction is self-criticism, frustration, anger, depression, full-on despondency, which is this reaction is a big drop in the water. This reaction perpetuates suffering. But let's talk about this a little bit. As you forgive something, there's the experience of some relief, some sense of expansion. We all know this. Something's been released, let go. But still not aware of how many little echoes are left to make their way up and out. But because you have released, you've become lighter, haven't you? It's a felt sense even. You've become lighter. You could say your frequency is higher, your vibration is higher. You are more subtle, more sensitive, more expansive, more sensitive. So when a fainter echo comes to be seen and released, it feels to you more subtle, the same. It is fainter and you are more subtle, but it feels the same relatively. So this is a way for you to understand better what's happening. It takes a really long while and paying very close attention for each one to realize how fluid the I sense is. How you're always a different identity. You're always relating differently. Something in the mind has this habit of pretending it's the same. So as you become lighter and more expansive, you become more sensitive. Every yogi experiences this. Sounds and tastes and smells that didn't used to bother them, now all of a sudden are disturbing. You never used to hear the music in restaurants or the gas pump or whatever, or the smells in stores or the perfumes that people wear, or right? But we become so sensitive to these things as we become more subtle. It's like this in the mind also. And also know that the game then really becomes vibration management, of intentionally cultivating how you feel in order to increasingly, as the choice points become more apparent to you, you choose joy. You see that there's a choice, and after seeing that there's a choice and still choosing sadness, then eventually you will see the choice and then choose joy. And from here, your life will unfold in a completely different direction. Unrecognizable, perhaps. And so this, in contrast to what I was just saying, was that it's just fainter echoes. Our vibration can also get more obtuse, grosser, less subtle. Then it's important gently to take the reins back from the world of how you feel. The real good news in all of this is that increasingly you will be in charge of how you feel. You will reclaim your own sovereignty of experience. You will no longer be subject. Your thoughts and emotions will no longer be subject to the incessant movement of the world and even of your own mind. Because if it's in your control, this is very good news. If it's in control of the world, it's very bad news. If other people are responsible for how you feel, you're in trouble. Yeah. If your mind is responsible for how you feel, it's very likely you're in trouble. Okay. Something else? Somebody else with something?
This is Ali. Can you hear me?
Hi, Ali.
Hi. To follow up on that inquiry, could you say, pulling back in the big picture, pulling way back, that really ultimately the one we're forgiving is ourselves, because there's that ego we bumped up against or engaged with in the world, and then there was something defined as an offense, but actually they're just the projection of ourselves in that sense. like I talked about, going out into the world as a mirror or as a generosity, engaging with the world. It's just a mirror at that point. Could you say, like, could you talk about that a little bit? Is there part of that I'm missing, maybe?
No, it's very good. Thank you. I think you're already seeing it's implicit, isn't it? If I make the world what it is, then what is it? It's of my creation. It's of me. If I make the world, organize it according to my own past, my own memory, my own trauma, my nostalgias and resentments, then it's mine. It's me. And it's past. So when you come at it from this, let's just say, more global understanding, comprehension, recognition, it will be very clear there is no judgment other than self-judgment. It doesn't exist. There's no forgiveness apart from self-forgiveness. There's no compassion other than self-compassion. And there is no love other than self-love. This also is this same good news. Past the disturbance of, oh, I've done this, you recognize that if I did it, I can undo it in myself. From our conditioning, we have conditioned the world, the superimposition. And so it's just this spiritual journey is a process of undoing, unlearning, unknowing. Having moved outward, saying this and that, moving outward, 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 we return and we move inward and we stay quiet. The world is a mirror, like a magic mirror that it plays with time and space. It has so many distortions. Even in the mirror that you looked in this morning, left is right and right is left. But in the world mirror, it's animated, fractalized, fluid and dynamic, inverted, inside out, upside down, and backwards. I've wondered, is this what it means? Man is made in the image of God? An image is a reflection. It is an inversion, isn't it? And so, if world is a mirror, it is what I make it. Embedded in this construct is what's called confirmation bias. I say what it is, and it acts accordingly. Now, the thing is, it's so tricky because even to hear this, we're looking at it from the limited sense of I that has such a narrow scope of time and space that it'll make a muck out of how to build a strategy on how to really cultivate the most out of the world. Don't bother. It's like that movie with Mickey Mouse called Fantasia. Put your wand down. Do yourself and everyone a favor.
So I really resonated with Ranjani's experience of this old thing that's so off the radar, popping its head up in an unusual situation. Completely unrelated, but so today I was able to frame it as my ego's beating me up today, is what I kept saying to myself. It is beating me up. Because here, everything I worked towards with my housemate, and she finally got a job, and now she goes off to work. And then I volunteer to help with some things that I'm positioned to do while she's at work. And here comes the ego's identity of wife. Wife for 25 years. Resentment that I'm staying at home, so now I'm stuck with all these things that you don't want to do or you can't get to or blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was beat up by this one today. And it felt so distasteful. What's nice about what I like about what you said of the subtlety, growing subtlety of things is, it beat me up for a while. And within 4 hours, I had figured out what was going on and realized, well, I'm the one who volunteered to do that. That was all me. And, I guess the word I came up with while you were talking before with Ranjani was liberation from that. Liberation from that crap. Because here I was applying a template called wife to a thing. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. It was funny, ridiculous, but it made me think that I got entangled in, this is why I asked the question, well, I guess I have to forgive the other one for making me feel that way. They're like, no, I chose to step into that. So the only one to forgive is myself, or, forgive is the word of just, oh, isn't that interesting? Well, that's really beating me up today. But it feels so good to be free of that once I realized that's just ridiculous. So that was kind of fun. It was kind of tough, but it was fun because it passed through so quickly. It's kind of a neat phrase, is what I'm saying. It was beating me up so that I really didn't take it on. But also it was the one to forgive. And it was all here the whole time. There was no one else doing anything to me. I really resonated with that. Thank you.
First, one thing you said that I think bears saying again, which is that the fruit of forgiveness is compassion. And when you're in compassion, a loving acceptance, the practice of forgiveness isn't necessary. It's already been forgiven. It's already forgiven. And the invitation to forgiveness is in non-acceptance, judgment, suffering. But how is it that you get lost in the experience of something that was just something of the mind, something that was in the heart in the past? And you had a 4-hour experience of being in it. And is that in it still available now from this place now where you are perceiving from, in this degree of consciousness that you are now? Where is it? Where's that 4 hours, and where's the experience of the one who was in it? And how does it happen? This I'm in, I'm out. Is
It felt like this one was beating up on my serenity, my peace, this one. So I just grappled with her a little while, But that to make that distinction was so helpful.
yes. When we're in it.
That it wasn't me, it was something beating up on my serenity. That's how I know what to pay attention to, because it's causing disequilibrium in some way, and I can immediately zoom in on it.
And so there's a cue that you're in something, and then some kind of, even the remembrance can bring you out, or maybe there's some sort of breadcrumb trail that you've left for yourself to exit. But where is it now? And this, I think, looking for it, really, from not in it, from out of it, you could say, from outside of it, looking for where's the one that was in it, where's any hint of that? Where is it? Can I find it? Look, in earnest, because the next time you're in it, it may come to you that you're lost in thought. It's not real. It's an echo chamber of past, mind, past.
And how I feel. That's how I know.
Yes.
It's how I feel. Contrast is like a waker-upper. You can notice the contrast.
Some months ago, we were all exploring a practice of being in it, knowing that there is an experience of not in it, and still being in it and adding a slight smile to the face. It's fascinating because A, it works in your suffering. If you add a knowing smile, just a slight one, it actually moves us out. So simple, so accessible. And what's fascinating is that the one who's in it does not want to smile. Doesn't want that. Does not want to be free. All of these things are just helpful to know. You had something?
I've been contemplating a lot about, it feels on topic here, about where the balance is. We're talking about self-compassion and self-forgiveness, and it's all reflection. And my question comes in, where's the balance with discipline in this? You often say, what comes up for me is, Muji says that effortless takes effort. So the balance between realizing that I'm not the doer, but discipline in order to evolve my awareness and move from the perspective that I am the doer to the seat of knowing that I am not. And it feels a little mushy for me, and I get stuck between that, what feels like a paradox of those two.
Really well said. Thank you. I think people can relate in this way that in yoga asana, hatha, there is what's called the edge of a particular asana, a particular pose. And the wise instruction is to come to the edge and back off just a little. So that's it. Do that. Every day, the edge is different. Same pose, same body, different edge. So yesterday's edge is not today's edge. Today's edge will not be tomorrow's edge. So this balance is a verb, balancing. In asana, it's you don't want to be in shavasana the entire time. And you don't want to stretch so much that you incapacitate yourself so that you can't come back and do tomorrow's practice. Injury. So what are the corollaries in our psychological, mental, emotional experience? You could say that one would be indulgence. Indulging inertia, tamas, laziness. Now, this indulgence is often referred to by the mind as self-care. Self-care is important, but know that oftentimes that phrase is used as an indulgence. Think about it this way. What do people call comfort food? And how does it make them feel? After it passes the tongue, how does it make them feel? It's not comfortable at all, is it? And once you become really aligned to what will give you sustained comfort, then oftentimes the initial experience is uncomfortable. So part of this indulgence is in our tamasic laziness. And we contemplate where our edge is in Shavasana and never move into the pose. I'm just taking care of myself. So this is one side, one side of what you're calling paradox, which isn't actually paradoxical, but one side of it, The other side is trying too hard, too rigid, too disciplined, building an identity around becoming the best yogi. Completely ignoring the sense of self and stretching way beyond your capacity and always injured. This one is trying to be the super karma yogi. Usually, by the way, wants everybody to know what a good karma yogi they are, how good and serviceful they are. It really is the edge of how you feel physically, emotionally, mentally, and finding the edge, back off a half a degree. But you have to find the edge. You can't think you know what it is before you find it. This means doing. It means engaged and active. Tamas is not self-care. And you need only pay attention to how you feel in the fruit of the action. How does it feel when you sleep in? This isn't to make it a good thing or a bad thing or right or wrong. This is a mistake. You're just trying to feel good. So pay attention. Pay very close attention to how it is that you feel best and do the things that you know you need to do in order to feel your best. And like for me, last night I had some ice cream and I didn't sleep well. But I'm not lamenting this. I knew going in, I'm going to please the tongue and the rest of me will suffer, and so I accept it. I'm not hard on myself for it. What would be the point of that? I knew going in. So what? It's not so horrible to feel poorly for a short time. So all of the things that we call self-care and comforting and familiar, know for your own self, is it working? That's all. This balancing means finding the midpoint and moving from there to there. The midpoint is always different. Every moment it's shifting. It defies having a formula, a strict formula. Like, it would be like writing a manual on how to surf. Not that it wouldn't be helpful, but it doesn't produce a surfer. The wave is always shifting. It's always moving in ways that you couldn't possibly predict. You can really drill down into this, but you're always moving. It's always moving. So your center is always moving. You have to come out of Shavasana, into the pose, and find the edge. Then you know where the edge is in that moment. It's okay. You see, this conditioning that we are trying to somehow be free of is who we think we are. The ego isn't anything more or less than the conditioning, a matrix of memories, a constellation of past that somehow is imbued with the I sense, but it is no more real than the 4 hours that Alethea can't find right now. Your entire ego sense is that, a sense of being in it as something, in something, and it's just not the full experience of being, of living, of actual what it is to be human even. It's such a small part. And so when Muji says the effortless takes effort, it means we have to take control of ourselves to endeavor to move out of our conditioning. And there's something really magical that can happen, is that when you're sincere in this, when any of us are sincere in this, I say we take 1, 2, 3 steps, and that is where the cosmic will meets us to help us. Comes to intercede. But first, we have to demonstrate really to our own selves that we're sincere. And the only way we know our sincerity is through what we say and what we do. This is how we know whether we're sincere or not. Again, not as some kind of self-criticism, but just, okay, now I know. I thought I was sincere. But if I was sincere about waking up, I wouldn't sleep in. And it's not a problem. There's no rush. Life will, of its own accord, create enough suffering for each of us to develop that sincerity. Isn't it true? I mean, this is the way it's been for me. I only leave the house when it's completely engulfed in flames. And then grateful for the fire. Something more. Tell me.
There's as usual, there's more than one me hearing you. So there's the one who knows that it's truth, and then the one who has a temper tantrum. when they hear it. And it's another balance in Razor's Edge, I think. It feels. Because the two get blurred sometimes, I think, for me.
Yes.
The two voices become blurred, and I lose track of which is the one who's hearing truth and which is the one who's having the temper tantrum.
Yes. When a child rules the house, everyone in the house is unhappy. Because it's only a matter of time before the next tantrum comes. And if it destabilizes the entire household, and everybody's scurrying around to make the child happy, a pacifier, a cookie, the child will never learn their own ability to self-soothe, they call it now. And the house will be in chaos. So, you don't reject the child who's having a tantrum. You don't neglect the child, you don't abuse the child that's having the tantrum. Right? But we do. We either indulge the tantrum as the child, or we abuse and neglect the child as the parent itself having its own tantrum relative to the tantrum. Isn't it? Do you see? No? It does. It happens where the tantrum becomes so much that it blocks out. You can't hear. Because it means that it's close. When all of a sudden the function of hearing ceases, and you see my lips moving, and you maybe even hear sounds and words and know that in a different way these words come together to make sense of something, but you can't quite that means you're close. It means you're right on the edge of an ego death. And it doesn't mean try to understand what I'm saying. It means surrender here. You see, the father loves the child having the tantrum. The love is completely unaffected. The mature, loving father sees this as a part of growth. The mind can just seem to freeze, locks up, a paralysis. Like a deer in the headlights. This would happen to me all the time with Muji. So, die here. Surrender here. The loving parent doesn't exclude the child for the tantrum. Also doesn't negotiate. The love itself, the total acceptance is enough, without even words to guide the child from this. You are your own parent. This paralysis is a survival mechanism of ego. Everybody knows this by now. Fight, flight, freeze. Coming into the space of presence, it's powerful. The ego triggers itself into a fight, flight, freeze response. When it happens, somebody always will need to excuse themselves to go to the bathroom or become suddenly nauseous, and they'll leave. Another one will launch an internal mental assault on the one speaking, engaged in some sort of internal debate, even fight. And sometimes the mind just locks up. You can't hear, couldn't form a sentence if you tried. This is the place where transformation happens. And it is built into so much more subtle than anything we know of ourselves. This survival mechanism is implicit in the lattice of this I sense called ego. It's like there's like a web cording, and there's a single knot. If you undo that knot, the whole thing comes undone. This is that knot. This sense, this egoic sense of self-preservation. And it seems to be we come up at this intersection in presence over and over and over again. And if you pay attention to it one time, you'll relax into it. But even endeavoring to surrender, to arrive at this place and surrender in this place, you will find that even in earnest, coming here to surrender, there is a movement to recoil. So it's okay, you just keep coming back to it. But why else would you come? Why else would you come to satsang but for that? So, but this is what this is about. For me, this is why satsang. It can be fun and helpful to explore what's happening here, to go layers and layers deeper of understanding what is the root of suffering and what is the way to freedom. But ultimately, the whole thing is designed to come to a point Swami Satchidananda even said this. He said, all of these practices I give you, this Hatha Yoga, this Karma Yoga, this Bhakti Yoga, all of these things, all of these practices, all of this sadhana I give to you simply to bring you to the place where you give up, where you surrender and place your trust in God. And each of these modalities, each of these practices are essential. But beyond the place of total unconditional surrender, this is what it means. The effortless takes effort. The timeless takes time. The you that you think you are must commit, must cultivate a sustained sincerity. And then after that point, it loses its urgent, even important value. Still so many benefits. In Guru Gita, it says even the scriptures serve only but to adorn the Guru's feet. So how do we know we're sincere? Pay very close attention to what you say and what you do. In this, you will know whether you're sincere. And nobody else can say this about you, but you must know it for yourself. And there's no real urgency in it. The suffering will compound. It will bring us to the point of surrender. This is God's promise, I guess we could say. Oh. Just some moments of silence. Om. What came to me in that moment was the arti that they do at Manta Sahaja at Muji's ashram. It says, Om Ramana, a gratitude to Ramana Maharshi. Om Papaji, to Muji's own guru. Om Mujiji, our gratitude to Muji and his ashram. Om Satguru, which is here, it's your own indwelling divinity. That precedes Ramana and is the culmination of the disciplic anointment or initiation. And then it says, Om Shiva Om. Om Krishna. Om Gautama. No. Om Yeshua. Om Gautama. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. The heart, right in the middle of this, is Satguru, which is the indwelling divinity. Same. So in this is disciplic succession. At the center of it is the indwelling divinity and a recognition that across all traditions, in all languages, same, same, same. If this is true, what is actually required of you? It's all taken care of. It's a beautiful arti. I would encourage you actually to YouTube it. It goes on for half an hour probably, but even just to listen to one round. And as they do this, they offer the light to the deities and to the whole room. Just a 360 offering the light. Yeah. Be sure that when you're watching it, you wait to the moment where the light is offered to you and you receive it there. Okay. I'm so happy to see you all. So happy, really, for this very intimate group.